Welcome, everyone, back to another episode of Combating Cancer. My name is Gwen Kelly, and I'm your host. If this is your first time tuning in, I just want to say thank you so much for being here and joining this community. A little background information about me for my first-time listeners is that I was diagnosed with stage 3 astrocytoma brain cancer at the age of 19. And the reason why I created this platform is because I wanted a safe and honest space for those either in active treatment, in remission, grieving the loss of a loved one, or someone that just wanted to come on and learn more about how to better support someone with cancer. So today I have a very special guest. I have Britney Marr. Hi, Britney. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Gwen?
I'm good. I'm so excited. I've been posting on the Combating Cancer LinkedIn page, and then all of a sudden I saw I got a DM from you, and I was like, oh my gosh, yay.
Yeah, I just saw a couple of things get posted, and I was like, hey, a really good platform. This is really exciting. This is something I should come on and talk about.
I know I'm always excited when I have people reach out to me because obviously it's one thing when you're posting about your story and trying to put awareness out there. But when I get a message from you or someone else that's like, hey, I really want to share my story, I'm like, this is awesome because that's the entire reason why I made this platform. So I could have people like you come on and, share their battles and advice to other people.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
So do you want to start off and just tell everyone that's listening what type of cancer you have?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed back in October of 2024 with stage 2 papillary thyroid carcinoma. So a stage 2 just thyroid cancer. It's one of the most common cancers in females, but it's also one of the ones that people call the easy cancer. It's just something you can kind of just treat and get over it. And unfortunately, I decided to not just get over it. It's still here a year and a half later, battling same exact stage because you don't leave stage 2 unless you're within a certain age group. So I just forever sit in stage 2.
There is no easy cancer.
No, it's one of my biggest pet peeves that people always say that to me. I've had plenty of doctors be like, well, you have the easy cancer. And I'm like, cancer's just not easy. Just because it's one that's very highly treatable and a lot of people go into remission on it doesn't mean it's just easy.
I actually talk about that a lot. I had a conversation with someone that's a cancer survivor, and I was like, hey, I would love for you to come on and share your story. And they're like, they say my cancer is easy and that it's not that extreme compared to others. And I was like, look, here's the thing. When you go into a doctor's office and you hear the words, you've got cancer, that is just the worst thing ever. And it's just terrible no matter what. And I just hate that people downplay what they have because it's we need to talk about it. All cancer's terrible.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I haven't really spoken up about it in my life is because I'm it's thyroid cancer. There's a lot of ways to treat it. I live with it every single day. I'm not going through chemo. I don't have brain cancer like you did. So I've always been kind of is mine that bad?
Right. I feel like that's a very common thing that happens though, because a lot of times in life we just do the comparison of okay, well, it could be worse, but it's we all are battling with things behind closed doors. And just the fact that anyone has to go through treatment and just go through the same experience of waiting for the next blood results, for the next scans, it's so scary. And it's all the same no matter what type of cancer you have. The feelings are just the same. So how did you first find out you were initially diagnosed?
So back in the summer of 2024, we found a lump in my neck. Sometimes you can feel just odd things in your body and it's not a big deal. My mom is a nurse practitioner. And so she had felt it and she was like, this is bigger than just something simple. You should get it checked out. And I was like, I'm sure it's nothing. I'm not going to. I'm just going to feign ignorance and pretend there's nothing wrong. For a while, that worked. But I'm somebody who is very active. I like to be awake. I like to be doing things all the time. I started sleeping a lot. I was sleeping pretty much every afternoon after work. I could not get through a day. And eventually I was like, okay, maybe something is wrong. And so I went in and they were like, oh, you have some sort of mass on the right lobe of your thyroid. It's the size of a baseball, but it's tucked back enough that you can't fully tell the actual size of it. But that thing's huge. It's not supposed to be there. And I was like, oh, this is actually something concerning, which then snowballed from many scans and ultrasounds and biopsies until I found out that giant baseball was malignant and it had to come out.
That's crazy. For anyone that can't see my facial reaction, my eyes just got humongous when she said size of baseball. I was like, oh my gosh.
So I had a complete thyroidectomy back in December, which is where they just take out your entire thyroid and nip everything in the butt in that area of your neck. I took a picture the night before of like a one last memory of like, this is what my neck looks like. And I like to look back at it occasionally. And every time my eyes go wide, because I'm like, that used to be there. Like there used to be this giant like bulge that stuck out of my neck. And that was just a tumor. Like it wasn't normal. That's not something that you find every day. And now I obviously don't see it because it's gone. But it's such a crazy thing that you don't really look for. And then until you have to. And so like now I feel my neck constantly. I'm constantly like feeling around for tumors and for abnormalities and giving myself anxiety constantly. And it's just kind of something I'm sure I'll live with for the rest of my life.
Yeah, it's one of those things that isn't talked about a lot, that once you get diagnosed, all of a sudden you become like the biggest hypochondriac ever.
Yes.
I have so many times where all of a sudden my back's hurting and I'm like, oh my gosh, I must have tumors on my spine or something.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
and it's like, no, Gwen, you just had a terrible night's sleep. Like, you're fine.
I'm the same way. Anytime like I get sick or something, I'm like, oh, it's probably spread. I should probably go get looked at every time.
Yep, I just think it's something that we're going to have to deal with. Unfortunately, that's one of the things that come alongside with, getting diagnosed with cancer. But when you first found out that you were diagnosed, what was your initial reaction?
You can ask any of my like immediate family or my direct like best friends. I was kind of in disassociation. I was kind of just like, it's not a big deal. And one thing I hear a lot from people is that I have a really good mindset about it. I've heard it since the beginning. I still hear it now. Because at the beginning and kind of just throughout, I've always kind of tried to keep a level head of like, okay, you have cancer. That's fine. That's just what it is now. I think until I had surgery, it was kind of just like, it's not really actually that big of a deal. Like, I'm sure I'm fine. Nothing bad's ever going to happen. And then I had surgery. And then I realized that it was not fine. It was not just going to be that easy. I was more or less just kind of like, I'm sure it's fine.
I think definitely having a positive mindset really makes a world of difference when you're going through treatment. You and I were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but when you get diagnosed, you just hear all these stories about people being in bed all day and just not living their life. And you and I were talking about how like we don't want that there's still life to live even while you're going through treatment and afterwards. So you had to go through chemotherapy, correct?
So I went through radioactive iodine. It's like a mix between radiation and chemo, but it's specific for thyroid cancer. I literally go in, I have like people who can't touch the medication. I have to take it in a controlled area. And then I have to go back and have no contact with the outside world for 2 straight weeks because I'm like literally radioactive. Like my sweat is radioactive. Like every part about me is radioactive. So I can't see people. I can't see, like my pets had to go elsewhere. So it's like their weird attempts to put chemo and radiation in one for thyroid cancer. And I'm sure 9 times out of 10 it works, but it didn't. I had to be completely cut off from the world. I still worked through it, but I had to work with gloves on because I couldn't touch my keyboard. Because if I would have touched my keyboard, I would have had to throw the whole keyboard out because it would have been radioactive at the end of it. And I would have just kept reinfecting myself with like radioactive fluid.
Oh my gosh. Now, did you do that in the hospital or at your home?
At my home. So I did it down in Rochester and I live up in the Twin Cities. So I like took this medication and then I like put myself in like a full suit of clothes that I was going to throw out at the end and drove myself back. And then I existed with gloves on for a really long time. Because I still like obviously super like bleach deep cleaned my house at the end of the 2 weeks, but I wanted to minimize the amount of contact for my pets specifically because there's no way I can clean 100% of things. But yeah, I was like quite literally radioactive for 2 full weeks afterward.
I mean, that's got to feel so isolating. That just reminds me of like getting quarantined for COVID and I felt like I was going stir crazy, but especially if your body's literally radioactive, like how were you feeling during that?
Very tired. Your body kind of feels like it's just in overdrive, like you would think like a radioactive material. Your body's in overdrive. You miss a lot, kind of like how COVID was. You have this like disconnect from society. And I was really unfortunate. My niece was born 3 or 4 days before I had my first surgery. And then her baptism was the weekend after my radioactive iodine dose. So I had to miss her entire baptism. I'm her godmother. So there's all these pieces like of life that you miss, just going through cancer treatments in general. You miss some of these like really important pieces of life. So that really put a damper on my mental, I would say, in that of like, I can't be there for that and I should be there. But at the same time, I'm not going to get better for my family to be able to go to these things if I don't. So it's really kind of just, you're really tired, your mental is really bad, and eventually you get through it. But in those 2 weeks, you feel like it's the end of the world.
And how many times have you had to do this cocktail mix of radiation and chemotherapy?
So I only did it once. So kind of how the path went. I had my first surgery, my thyroidectomy. We took out a bunch of lymph nodes because they were all infected as well. We went through the radioactive iodine as a way to try to like stop whatever was growing. Then 6 months after that, we go through this full redo of scans and biopsies and blood work and all of this. And that kind of defines the future. And so I went through the radioactive iodine in January of 2025. And in August of 2025, I went back in for all my scans and everything. And they were like, hey, there's still more in here that wasn't there when you had surgery the first time. So we need to go in and look at this. And then I ended up having surgery again. I got 17 more lymph nodes removed on top of the 16, 17 I got removed the first time around. And my care team sat down with me and they were like, hey, listen, so your subtype, it doesn't work. Like the radioactive iodine, no matter how much we give you, it's never going to solve this problem. You're just going to sit until some point with the thyroid bed that sits like right at the bottom of your neck. It has papillary thyroid carcinoma sitting in it. Like the cells are just sitting in there like a hub. And you're just going to have to sit there with that for a while, which is a really polarizing thing to hear of like, I just have to exist. Like, I just have to have cancer. And at this point, we're not at a point where they're willing to pull enough strings to make it go away. We just have to exist.
I relate on that with so many different levels. I don't know how familiar you are with brain cancer, but there's obviously not a cure for it. And it's something where you just monitor scan by scan, and you're never going to truly be in remission. And it's one of those things where, you feel like you can never be like, I'm cancer free. It's just, I'm waiting for the next shoe to drop. And that can be extremely difficult and scary. So I completely understand what you're going through. And that's a very hard way to have to live.
I remember the first time my endocrinologist told me this. I remember it like yesterday. We were sitting there. We were talking through his post my first surgery. And she was like, so you need to understand that with thyroid cancer, you don't get remission. You just go into surveillance and we just have to watch you for the rest of your life. Like 6 months turns to 1 year and 1 year turns to 5. And then 5 just turns into just watching it. But like you're under surveillance forever. There's never a point where you don't need to be paying attention or watching or like feeling your neck to make sure you don't feel anything. Like that's going to be for the rest of my entire life. I'm assuming you feel very similar. Like that's just always something in the back of your head, no matter where you are or what you're doing.
No, I totally do. And, it's very difficult. I've released many different self-tape podcasts that talk about racing against the clock and waiting for the other shoe to drop and being like, okay, do I start my life? And what happens if all of a sudden it comes back and, I got to start this process all over again. The only thing I can control is my emotions, and I'm just going to continue to have a positive attitude. And obviously, there's those days where you're like, man, why does this have to be me? Why is this my life?
Yeah.
It literally stinks. It's just one of those things where it's like, unfortunately, like none of us are special and cancer affects so many different people, but it really does come down to that mindset of like still living that positive life and doing all you can. And especially like conversations like these, like raising awareness and being like, okay, I can still have a life while going through this, even though something terrible happened.
The amount of women who go through just papillary thyroid carcinoma specifically, that's the most common type of thyroid cancer, is astronomical. I think I'd heard like one person before me that had it that I knew like in my like greater part of my life. And then I joined so many support groups afterward, just as like a way to kind of like relate to people. There are so many people who have gone through just thyroid cancer in general. And everybody's kind of on that same mindset that I started with of like, it's not that bad of a cancer. So like nobody really cares all that much. Like I'm not going to talk about it. And then I realized that so many people have it and it's just not talked about. So when like people think of cancer, they think a lot of like brain cancer and breast cancer. And there's so many people who experience all of these thousands of different types of cancer. So I was like, I really want to come on and talk just about, like you said, living day to day. Like I still go to work every day. I still have a life. I still do all of these things. It's just always something that people don't know exists unless you tell them.
Which is why I think it's amazing that you're coming on and sharing your story. And, as of right now, can you just kind of walk us through what the process is of monitoring your cancer?
Yeah. So I have a large care team. So most people don't understand what it's like to not have a thyroid until you don't have one. So the thyroid in your body is like the hormone hub. Most of your hormones in your body flow through it. So it is consistently sending your hormones to different parts of your body. It's talking to your brain constantly. And when you don't have that, your brain knows. Your brain knows something's wrong. It's going to misfire. It's going to send things where they're not supposed to be. I have a large care team that's managing just that part of just existing. I have to take thyroid replacement supplements. I have to ensure that I'm eating special things. I'm exercising a certain amount to make sure that my body thinks something's normal. Because if it doesn't, it's going to sense something's wrong and it's going to try to fix it. So there's been a few people I've seen, some people in like the forums talk about how they've had their body try to grow their thyroid back. It is an organ at the end of the day, but it could grow itself back. That's a scary concept that your body's just going to grow itself an organ. So I don't want that. So as of now, every 6-ish months, I have to go through extensive blood work and ultrasound that takes like, I swear, like 2 hours of them just like looking at every tiny little piece of my neck. And then if they find something, which they likely will this next round again, we'll go through the stages of head CTs, biopsies, consults for surgery. And you can't really see it. I wonder if you can see it on camera, even though it's little. So my neck, you can kind of see it. So my neck goes up right here. I have a really large scar that goes around the entirety of my neck. The whole top chunk of my neck will likely have to come out lymph node wise at some point this year, just because it travels. It's something we already kind of set up with. It's a mindset my care team already kind of had with me. We had a sit down conversation of we're likely going to have to pull more out because that's just the way that this cancer is growing. So I'm going through the stages now. We've been about 6 months out in April. So we'll go through this 2-month process of scans, of looking at my blood work, of looking at where things are. And then we'll go in and have surgery unless it looks worse, which is then when we look at what does it look like if we take out more lymph nodes than we're supposed to? Is there alternative treatment methods? Is there clinical trials for new things? Or do we just go to chemo because it's at a point where we can't chase these tumors anymore? We have to go back to the source.
You are one strong girl. I gotta tell you that.
It's a lot of uncertainty. That's probably the hardest part for me is there's so much uncertainty. There's 8 ways this could go. And so I have to mentally prepare for the 8 different ways this could go. When realistically, it's probably just going to be the simplest one of let's just take more tumors out. But I also have to keep that in the back of my head of like, what if they say it's farther than it should be, or it's at a point where it's growing faster than we can contain it. So we have to go back to the source. And I'm somebody who likes to plan far enough ahead. And so I'm at a point right now where I'm like, I have PTO planned and trips planned all the way into August. And I have to keep that in my brain of like, I might not be able to do any of them. And I'm like, I want to keep living and I want to keep like striving to move forward. And I keep getting pulled back, which is so hard for me to just like give myself that grace of like, you can plan far ahead, you can make these plans, you can do this with your friends and your family, but you have to understand that I might not get to. I might have to sit back for another surgery, and it takes at least 4 weeks now for me to recover. It took 3 the first time, 4 the last time, maybe 5 this next time. There's so many like long-term complications that I'm gaining from each of these surgeries that it's just hard.
That seems extremely difficult. And I know that's hard when, you know, you want to plan things, but unfortunately life doesn't stop when you have cancer and it just keeps going. And, you know, I really commend you for still like going out and making plans and planning for the future, because I think that's something very hard to do when people are diagnosed with cancer. I know personally myself, I struggled with making plans a month out in advance because I was like, well, I don't know where my life is going to take me. So
Yeah.
I think you honestly have such a strong mindset and you have such resilience, and everything that you're going through and still continuing to go through, the fact that you're so positive is just amazing to see, because not a lot of people are like that.
It took a lot of work to get where I am. I will admit, after the first surgery, I was where you were, where I was saying, even like week to week of like, am I going to have enough energy to go out and do this? Maybe I should just not plan anything. Or maybe I should just decline these invitations now because I don't know where I'm going to be feeling. I had a lot of issues with like nerve pain after my last surgery because it was really close to my nerve in my neck. And so I was like, am I going to be able to stand for this long? Probably not. I'm not going to go. Like, I'm just going to be safe. I'm going to just stop going out and doing these things. It was dark. It was a lot of like, I'd go to work, I'd come home, I'd exist at home, I'd repeat. That's kind of that what we were talking about. Of like, that's what people see. That's what they think, is people just lay in bed all day. And for a little while I did. And then I was like, I can't live this way. The same way I'm sure almost 100% of people who are actively being treated with cancer are like, hey, I can't just live this way forever.
Well, yeah, because realistically, we don't know how much time we have. It's one of those things where it's like we have to live to the fullest. And, if some of those days require a bunch of medication or surgeries, we say okay, and we just get ready for the next day. And I just really think your attitude is amazing. Like I got to tell you, I really love it. And I just think that's so hard to do. And I think you're great.
Yeah. I think I told you that before we started recording, that a lot of people are like, oh, you have such a really great mindset. I'm like, it's taking a lot of training. There's a lot of times, even now, where I'm so uncertain, I just kind of sit at home and I'm like, I can only be so positive. And I can be like, this really sucks. Because at the end of the day, it does really suck. It sucks when I can't do a lot of things. There's a lot of complications you get when you lose a thyroid. One really hard thing for me is I can't regulate my body temperature on my own anymore. So if I get really, really hot, I love to play volleyball. If I get really, really hot, my body just doesn't take a few minutes and comes back down temp-wise. It takes a long time. So if I get like too hot or overworked while I'm doing activities, I'm down for the count for a while because I can't just come down in a couple of minutes. It's going to take me an hour to be able to breathe for my body, be able to come back down. And I'm going to have that for a really long time, which takes away from my mental and my great attitude that I have because there's a lot of things I can't do anymore. And so while I can appreciate everybody saying that I have this really great mental, I don't always.
Sometimes I say you got to fake it till you make it. There's obviously days where you're going to be crying on the bathroom floor, and then there's going to be other days where you're like, yeah, that's right, I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap up, I just want to know if there's any advice you would give to someone that is actively going through treatment that you wish someone would have given you.
So 2 things. The biggest thing is making sure you surround yourself with a group of people you trust and support you. And that's not just your family, your significant others, your friends. That's also your care team, which is a big thing that I struggled with. So making sure that you trust your providers, the people who are treating you, because that's going to give you such a bigger peace of mind of I feel supported and I trust these people that they want me to get better. They're not just doctors. Making sure you have this really good group around you across all of those different avenues. And then I guess, kind of what we've just been talking about is get out there, do more things. You don't know how much time is left, like you said. You could have weeks, you could have years. So it's really important that you still do these things that you have the energy for, making sure you continue to live.
I love that. Well, once again, I just want to thank you so much for coming on. And I'm really glad that you're able to start raising awareness for this because it truly means a lot and it's very important.
Yeah. I just want other women and girls that are going through this to see that thyroid cancer is still important. It's still very much something that a lot of people struggle with, and it's something to still talk about.
For sure. Well, that is the end of today's episode of Combating Cancer. As always, if this story resonated with you or you think someone else would benefit from hearing this, please share it. My door is always open if you or someone you know want to come on and share your story, or if you have a business inquiry that fits this mission. But that is all I had for you guys today, and we're just going to keep raising awareness and spreading the word. So I will chat with you all next Wednesday.